Tonight, you'll stand in front of a stove, you'll turn a dial, a flame or a coil will come to life, and you'll hold food over it until it changes. You do this without thinking. It feels like a chore or a hobby or something you order your way out of when you're tired. It isn't any of those things. It's the single most important thing your species has ever done, and your body stopped giving you a choice about it a very long time ago. Here's the part nobody says out loud. You can't survive on raw food. Not, you'd rather not. Your body physically cannot run on it. And the reason why rewrites everything you think happened in human history. Start with the experiment nobody meant to run. In 1999, 4 researchers at the University of Giessen in Germany published a study. Corinna Koebnick led it. They tracked over 500 people who ate raw food on purpose, not starving people, not people in a famine. Modern people in Germany with money and kitchens and blenders and supermarkets down the road. The only rule these people followed was simple: don't cook it. So what happened to them? The men lost about 10 kilograms, the women lost about 12. A quarter of the women dropped below a healthy body weight entirely, and then something stranger showed up in the data. Around a third of the women under 45 stopped menstruating. Their bodies looked at the raw food coming in, ran the math, and quietly switched off the ability to have a child. Read that again? These people had everything. Fridges, olive oil, as much food as they wanted whenever they wanted it, and the moment they took away the fire, their bodies started shutting down. The ones who ate the most raw food were hit the hardest. And remember who these people were? They weren't running down antelope across a savanna. They sat in warm homes, barely exercised, with modern medicine one phone call away. They had every advantage a human has ever had, and their bodies still slid into a chronic energy shortage they couldn't climb out of. If you can't survive on raw food in a heated apartment with a fridge, imagine trying it in the wild. That's the tell. Raw food isn't a diet your body tolerates, it's a diet your body slowly loses to. And here's the question that should bother you. Why? Chimps do fine on raw food. Gorillas thrive on it. They eat leaves and stems and fruit all day raw, and they build bodies far stronger than yours. So why can't you? Richard Wrangham, the Harvard scientist who spent his life on this question, actually did the math. For a body your size to survive on raw food alone, you'd need to eat roughly 12 pounds of raw plants every single day. Not once, every day for your whole life, just to break even. Your ancestors couldn't gather that much. Nobody could chew that much. The raw math simply doesn't close. To feel the answer, watch a chimp eat. A wild chimpanzee spends around 6 hours a day just chewing. 6 hours, half its waking life is spent grinding raw plants into something its gut can use. Your ancestors used to live like that too. Then, at some point, they made a trade, and it was permanent. Go back roughly 2 million years, your ancestors had a body built for raw food, big flat molars for grinding, huge jaw muscles for hours of chewing, and a long, heavy gut, the digestive machinery you need to break down raw plants and raw meat. There's a beautifully grim experiment that shows how badly you've lost this. In 2016, 2 Harvard scientists, Catherine Zink and Daniel Lieberman, handed volunteers raw goat meat. Not soft supermarket beef, tough, wild-style meat, the kind your ancestors actually faced, and they asked people to chew it with human teeth. Lieberman tried it himself. His description was blunt. You chew, and you chew, and you chew, and nothing happens. Human teeth can't break raw meat down. It just turns to rubber in your mouth like a piece of gum that never gets smaller. Your mouth isn't a failure. It's a mouth that was never meant to face raw food alone. And the pull toward fire runs deeper than you'd think. Give a chimp, a gorilla, or an orangutan the choice, and they reach for the cooked food. None of them has ever cooked anything in their lives. Yet offered a cooked carrot or a raw one, they pick the cooked one almost every time. The craving for what fire does to food is older than us. It's sitting there in our cousins waiting. Our ancestors just did the one thing the others never could. They caught the fire and kept it. Now here's why that trade happened. Your gut is expensive. A big digestive system burns enormous amounts of energy just sitting there quietly processing. Your gut and your brain are the 2 hungriest organs you own. Gram for gram, they both drink energy at a punishing rate. And that sets up a problem you can't cheat your way around. There's only so much energy to go around in a body. If you want to grow one expensive organ, you have to shrink another. You can't afford both at full size. In 1995, 2 scientists put this into words. Leslie Aiello and Peter Wheeler called it the expensive tissue hypothesis. Their point was brutal and simple. To grow a big brain, our ancestors had to shrink the gut. But you can't just shrink your gut and keep eating raw leaves. A short gut can't pull enough energy out of raw food to keep you alive. So how do you shrink the gut without starving? You do the digesting outside the body first. You use fire. This is the moment everything turns. Cooking is pre-digestion. When you heat food, the heat does the work your gut used to do. Think about what fire actually does to a meal. Raw starch is packed into tight little granules your body struggles to crack open. Heat them, and they swell and burst, and suddenly your enzymes can reach the energy inside. That's why a raw potato is almost useless to you, and a baked one is a meal. Raw protein is folded up tight, coiled like a knotted rope. Heat unravels it, so your body can finally grab hold and pull it apart. There's a second gift hiding in there too. Your body spends energy to digest. Breaking food down costs you calories before it ever pays you back. Cooked food has already been half broken by the fire, so digestion gets cheaper. You spend less to get more. Heat even kills the bacteria that would have turned raw meat into a death sentence. Raw food fights you the whole way down. Cooked food surrenders before it ever reaches your stomach, and someone finally measured exactly how big that difference is. A Harvard researcher named Rachel Carmody ran the test with mice. She fed them meat and sweet potato 4 ways: raw and whole, raw and pounded, cooked and whole, cooked and pounded. Then she tracked what happened to their bodies. The result was clean and a little chilling. Mice on raw food lost weight. Mice on the same food, cooked, held their weight. Same meal, same amount. Cooking alone decided whether the body gained or slowly wasted. Stack all of that together, and the gap is huge. More energy pulled from every bite. Less energy burned, pulling it out. Fewer meals that could quietly kill you. For a hungry ancestor scraping to survive, that edge was everything. That surplus of energy in our ancestors had to go somewhere. And it went into the most expensive thing a body can build. It went into the brain. Look at when the brain actually exploded around 1.9 million years ago. Our ancestors changed fast. Bodies got taller. Brains got dramatically bigger. Almost suddenly, their guts were already too small to power that from raw food. So they had to be getting more energy out of every bite than raw food can give. Something was pre-digesting their food before it hit the stomach. The timing points at one thing: fire. So look at what actually happened. In order, the fire came first, the cooking came first, the extra energy came first, and then, riding on all that freed up fuel, the brain grew. We didn't invent cooking because we got smart. We got smart because we cooked. Flip the story you were taught, and it finally fits. The old version says a clever ape figured out fire, but the clever ape didn't exist yet. The cleverness is what the fire paid for, not what discovered it. Sit with how strange that is. The intelligence you're using to follow this sentence wasn't the cause, it was the reward. Your brain is what your ancestors bought with the energy that fire unlocked. The fire built the mind, not the other way around. And once you see it that way, your own body starts to look like a confession. Look in a mirror, and you're staring at the evidence. Your jaw is small and weak. Your teeth are tiny compared to any other ape your size. Your gut is short, around 60% of what an ape your size should have. Your stomach is small, your colon is short. None of it is built to survive on raw food. Every one of those features is a body that assumed the fire was already there. You're not an animal that learned to cook. You're an animal that got rebuilt around cooking until it couldn't go back. And the rebuild goes deeper than bone. It reaches all the way into your genes. The same Harvard researcher, Rachel Carmody, went looking inside our DNA. She found something quiet and enormous. The genes we use to digest cooked food carry the fingerprints of natural selection. Evolution didn't just tolerate cooking, evolution bet on it. It reshaped our DNA around the assumption that our food arrives already touched by fire. Cooking isn't a habit sitting on top of your biology. It's written into the code that builds you. That raw food study makes horrible sense. Now, those people weren't only losing weight. They were feeding a rebuilt body the one thing it can no longer handle. And here's the fact that should end the argument. There is no human society on Earth that eats all its food raw. Not one. Search every culture, every tribe, every corner of the planet, and every single one of them cooks. A raw food diet is only possible now because of blenders, oil presses, and food shipped in from everywhere. Take those away, drop a person in the wild with nothing but raw food, and something grim happens. They can starve to death with a full stomach. Filling your belly with raw food isn't the same as feeding your body. You can eat and still slowly go hungry. Now, when did this actually start? The bones say it started a very, very long time ago. In Wonderwerk cave in South Africa, deep inside, over 30 meters from the entrance, researchers found something remarkable. Ash from burned grass, charred fragments of bone. The lead researchers, Francesco Berna and Paul Goldberg, showed it was burned right there inside the cave, not blown in by a wildfire, not washed in by water, a fire kept inside a shelter a million years ago, the hominin sitting beside it wasn't even one of us. It was probably Homo erectus, an ancestor who couldn't speak the way you do. No writing, no cities, no language as you'd recognize it. A creature we'd struggle to hold a conversation with. But they had fire. And that single fact was already reshaping the bodies of their children and their children's children, one generation at a time. Long before we were clever, we were cooked. And then there's a place in Israel called Gesher, Benot, Yaakov. Around 780,000 years ago, someone sat there beside the water. The archaeologist Naama Goren-Inbar spent years digging this site. Her team found tens of thousands of fish remains clustered around old hearths, and the teeth told the story. The fish had been heated to the temperature of cooking, not scorched in a random fire. Cooked. Someone, nearly a million years ago, was grilling fish by the shore of a lake. Sit with the scale of that number for a second. Cooking is older than our species. Cooking is older than farming by more than a million years. It's older than writing, older than the wheel, older than any word in any language ever spoken. The stove in your kitchen is the newest version of the oldest thing we do. And the fire did one more thing, something that had nothing to do with food before fire. A sleeping human was a meal waiting to happen. Picture your ancestors on an open landscape at night. Leopards hunt in the dark, so do hyenas. A person lying still in the grass is easy, quiet, defenseless prey. You could never really sleep. Not all of you, not at once. Someone always had to stay half awake, watching the black edge of the dark. Then came the fire, and large predators, almost all of them, are afraid of it. A ring of firelight became a wall that hunters wouldn't cross. For the first time, the whole group could lie down at the same moment and close their eyes together and trust the flames to keep watch. That's the part that gets me. The fire didn't only rebuild the body. It was the first thing that ever let a group of humans be unconscious and safe at the same time. Someone had to gather the wood. Someone had to keep it burning through the night while everyone else slept. That fire tended in the dark was one of the first real acts of taking care of each other, not one person surviving alone. A whole group choosing to protect each other while nobody was awake to notice. Think about the trust buried in that. To sleep is to go blind and helpless for hours. For the first time, a person could do that in the open and wake up alive, not because they were strong, because someone else fed the flames. So go back to that stove tonight. When you turn the dial and the heat climbs, you're not starting a chore. You're repeating the oldest human act there is, older than every country, older than language itself. You're not a person who happens to cook. You're a body that got taken apart and rebuilt around a fire, rebuilt until raw food alone could no longer keep you alive. And the mind reading this sentence right now was paid for, cell by cell, generation by generation, by someone standing in the dark, holding food over a flame, not knowing why it tasted better, only that it did.